that began as a scuffle at Walmart almost 3 years ago is now heading to trial, with the NAACP and others rallying behind the defendant. 24-year-old Heather Ellis, a preacher's daughter, was arrested in January 2007 after allegedly cutting in line at a Walmart in Kennett, Missouri. What happened before and after police were called to the store depends on who you're talking to. Was Ellis the victim of racism and police brutality, or did she lose control and assault an officer? Randy Kay joins me now. And Randy, help us understand what exactly happened here and what's at stake for this woman.
John, this woman is facing 15 years in prison for something that started at the checkout counter. Now, on the surface, it looks like a classic case of he said, she said. But if you look a little deeper, there is much more to it, including strong allegations of racism. Now, neither the prosecutor nor police would speak with us, but according to the police report that we have, this whole thing began with an incident at a Walmart checkout in Kennett, Missouri, a community known for racial tension. Police say Heather Ellis, who is African-American, cut the line and got, quote, belligerent with the cashier. Ellis was at Walmart with her cousin, and her family says she got in line with him. The white officers say they were called to the store because Ellis was, quote, yelling and cursing. Officers say she told them, quote, I ain't going nowhere until I get my expletive change back.
So then what happened when Ellis and the police all finally left the store?
Well, Ellis's lawyers wouldn't release the store surveillance video to us, but a representative from the ACLU who has viewed it told me it's, quote, inconclusive. That's what he said. He says there's only one angle of the tape from outside, and it just shows a mass of people moving toward the police car after the initial confrontation, which isn't caught on tape. But according to police, the officers tried to keep Ellis calm. They warned her she could be arrested, and that's when police say Ellis threatened, quote, to beat the officers' ass if they touched her. From there, police say, she became, quote, combative and began fighting. Police describe her as completely out of control. They say that she, quote, resisted arrest, kicked her feet, and stiffened her body when they tried to put her in that police car.
And so I imagine we're going to trial because Heather Ellis tells a very different story.
Very different. She did not speak with us directly, but the ACLU has been in touch with her family on this case. And the ACLU told me that Heather Ellis said as she came out of the store, the white officers followed her, quote, with a series of racial remarks that included the N-word and everything you can imagine. The ACLU says Ellis did not provoke the officers and denies cursing at them. According to the ACLU, Ellis was, quote, lifted off the ground by police and wasn't in control of her body. She told the ACLU that police, quote, were forcing her to flail around, that she did what she did to defuse the situation, but it kept escalating.
Kept escalating, and in the end, what are the specific charges?
Heather Ellis has been charged with assaulting a police officer, resisting arrest, and disturbing the peace. She has pleaded not guilty, but again, John, here's the thing. If she is found guilty, she could get up to 15 years in prison. 15 years. And I do want to point out here, Ellis has never been in trouble with the law before. She wants to become a doctor, but has put that off while she waits for her trial to start next month. So these days, she's working as a teacher in Louisiana, and she's engaged to be married to a state trooper.
Randy Kay breaking down the case for us tonight. Randy, thanks so much. Competing stories and lots of questions. Let's dig deeper with CNN legal analyst Lisa Bloom and former federal prosecutor Sonny Hostin. Sonny, you've read the files in this case. Do you see a clear-cut case of racial discrimination by the police, as Ellis and her family say?
I don't see a clear-cut case, I have to say, John. This case is diametrically opposed on both sides. Ms. Ellis is saying one thing, the police officers are saying another. When you read the probable cause affidavit here, quite frankly, it does sound like she's out of control. There are 5 police officers. They're all saying the same thing. There are at least 4 other witnesses within the Walmart store. They're all saying the same thing. They're saying that she was belligerent. They're saying that she was cursing. They're saying that she was angry. And I have to say, that is classic disturbance of the peace. And so when I think time will tell. If we get to see that videotape, we'll be able to learn a lot more about it. But at this point, it is very unclear as to whether or not this was a racially motivated arrest.
Lisa, I want to go to our Text 360 question, and it's from a good sleuth. It comes from Jolene in Texas. She writes, Walmart's usually a very busy store. Aside from video surveillance, are there witnesses to back either story?
Yes, there are 3 witnesses who are cited in the police report. And, of course, there's Heather herself and an aunt who apparently witnessed the arrest. Look, the question is, why was she angry? I'm sure she was angry. She has a completely different version of the facts. She says that the Walmart cashier asked her for ID, even though she was paying in cash, refused to give her change, and clearly they called the police because she was angry in the store. I didn't know that being angry in Walmart was against the law. If using profanity and raising your voice gives gives rise to a disturbing of the peace charge. I think about 75% of New York City could be arrested. So she feels that she was treated differently. It was on account of her race. It's in a racially charged community, and these charges are blown out of proportion, so she's facing 15 years behind bars for an incident that began with cutting in line allegedly in Walmart and ended with her being arrested outside because she was yelling, walking away, and the police didn't like it and they cuffed her. I think there's good reason to think there's some racial allegations here.
But Lisa, wouldn't you agree that the classic definition of disturbing the peace is offensive language directed at the face of another? I mean, that's a classic charge, and I think really the takeaway here is you never can win this sort of altercation with the police officer. I always advise my family members, I advise my clients,
that's
make
true.
those encounters short and sweet. Make them short and sweet,
That's
and we wouldn't
true,
be
and that's
here.
very easy to say. But if that were me and a police officer is using the N-word and I was treated badly in the way that she claims, I don't know if I wouldn't lose my temper as well. I mean, she's a human being. Everybody cracks at some point.
That's
she admits
true.
that she made some mistakes, or at least her representatives admit they made some mistakes. But in the context of this case, I think charging her with crimes to get her 15 years behind bars and letting this thing drag out for 3 years, all over what? A woman who got angry at Walmart? That seems preposterous and a huge waste of resources.
I think we can agree on that.
Let me ask you this one here. She has no prior record of arrest. She's a college student at the time. She wanted to go to med school. She's a preacher's daughter. Does that matter when you get into the courtroom? Sonny, to you first.
Well, sure, it's going to matter. I think that if she testifies, and most certainly she will, the jury's going to hear that. They're going to hear that this was someone that hopefully typically didn't lose her temper. This is a preacher's daughter, an educated person, an educated woman. I think that is going to certainly be a large part of this trial. But let's face it, she's going to be in front of a jury of her peers, but a jury in this same town, people that have read about this case. And so can she get a fair shake in front of that type of jury? I'm not so sure.
Can she, Lisa?
Look, that's going to come in at sentencing if she's convicted, all of her prior lack of history and all of that. There is another very important issue here, and that is that the police gave her a card from the KKK at one point because there was going to be a protest march, and the police said they passed this KKK card on to her to let her know, let her family know that there was a security issue. She sees that as a threat. I agree with her. I think that was inappropriate on the part of the police.
It's a fascinating case. Sonny Host and Lisa Bloom, thank you so much. And up next, we go inside the Obama